Right, so I just want to delve a little deeper into some of the research tools, and we'll focus in this module on Ask. And Ask forms part of the triangular research pieces, so we're going to be looking at Ask, Participate, /Do, and Observe. And really, before we get into that space, I just want to touch on a couple of biases and effects. We would see biases come from those people that we're interacting with, as well as from our own sort of background as the interviewer. So there's cognitive biases and a whole bunch of other sort of things that would affect the responses that we're getting, and can lead to us designing entire products that really have nothing to do with actually solving the problem, because we've had people have clouded the true nature of why they've made certain decisions. And so what I suggest you do is that you be prepared to call one another on your biases, and that you build a team that is quite diverse, and that when you go through this research stage, it is a collaborative exercise, and you need to put your biases up there, and you need to be able to, when you look through the results, determine whether that person was biased in how they interacted with that particular subject. So the Hawthorne effect, for example, is we see it often. People change their behavior when they're being watched. And they can change their answers to questions when they're being interviewed, right? But behavior changes when you have somebody else in the room and they're observing. So things like shadowing and fly on the wall, the rest of it can alter the behavior of your subjects. The reported versus actual behavior, well, we all like to tell a story, and that story tends to be over-exaggerated in the areas that highlight our good points and not our bad points. So people aren't always that keen to tell stories that highlight their bad points and the raw sort of pieces. And I've actually seen that in interviews where I've had my team, for example, analyze a diary study that I did on the train. And I was raw with it. I put my exact emotions down, and noticed that they actually took those out because they didn't like what I was thinking. And which I thought was an interesting exercise, and I pointed it out to them. They'd applied their biases. Okay, now I wasn't as a subject reporting a bias; it was actually them as interviewers, as observers, and that were actually applying a bias to my particular situation. So that sort of sits within the research and designist sort of bias area. All right, and what you've got is what's referred to as observer bias. All right, in other words, researchers, i.e. yourselves maybe, would overemphasize, all right, what you expect to find, or underemphasize what you don't expect to find. So you're going to go into and run some questions, and you're expecting to get an answer that is going to travel down this path, and therefore you will overemphasize your questions and drive the questioning and the train of thought and the storyboarding in that particular direction. Confirmation bias, we've probably all heard of. Researchers will only pick up things that confirm their own biases and their own belief systems and their own mindsets, and validate those things. So, because it interests them, and they therefore are bringing that to the table, and that's a pretty easy one to catch out because most of your team members would know you. Now, functional fixedness is really where you limit your understanding of something to the way it's currently used or supposed to be used. We often look at sort of things in everyday life, and you're like, what is that idiot doing that with that particular device? Why is that person wearing that item of clothing that way? So you have an expectation of how things should be used and consumed, and especially in public space, you kind of bring that across. But now, as an interviewer, you have an expectation on how certain things should be used, and sometimes I have a problem in which I have a frown on my face when I hear somebody doing something which they shouldn't be, and they're using it in a way that they shouldn't, and that actually leads them to alter their responses. So I've had to begin to address that. Then there's selective attention. So you tend to focus on a particular object for a period of time to the exclusions of other things. So you travel a rabbit hole basically. And anchoring bias is also they're rabbit holes. Things that over there that you like or that you think are interesting, and you can travel down those paths which can distract you. Right, and that's an anchoring bias too, where we really rely too heavily on the first piece of information when making a decision.